Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 13 is already in production as we expect it to launch in about a month to a month and a half or so. And so I wanted to talk about everything to expect so far. Since it's already in production, we have these models, or sometimes referred to as dummy units, that represent what the overall look will be. Now, I've shown these off in other videos and talked about some of what to expect, but now we have a better picture of what we should be expecting with this next iPhone. And like I said, it's already in production, and since they need to get millions ready, up to 100 million according to some orders, it looks like we're going to have a lot of these available. Now, the first thing is there will be similar models to what we have with the iPhone 12. So we have the iPhone 12, 12 mini, 12 Pro, and iPhone 12 Pro Max. That's expected to be the same this year, where we'll have an iPhone 12 mini, an iPhone 12, as well as an iPhone 12 Pro, and an iPhone 12 Pro Max. So we're expecting the same sort of lineup, where it's said that they won't have the mini in the following year. So with 2022 iPhones, iPhone 14, we may not have a mini. Now, some people are still saying it may not even be called iPhone 13. It could be called an iPhone 12s. I tend to think it will be 13, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, the overall design will be similar, other than what you can see here with the camera being at a diagonal. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but we expect aluminum and stainless steel, similar to what we have now, as well as a very similar layout. Last year with the iPhone 12 series was the major upgrade, where we got a redesign to the squared off edges. Now we have that design. We'll have that for a while instead of the rounded edges, and again, glass front and back. So we don't expect that to change too much as far as that goes. However, we do expect improved 5G this year. So with the iPhone 13, they offered millimeter wave in the United States and some other countries. It's said to expand to more countries this year, where you'll have millimeter wave with an improved 5G antenna from Qualcomm. So we expect even better 5G than we have with the iPhone 12 series phones, but in the iPhone 13. Along with that, we also expect even better Wi-Fi, with Wi-Fi 6E being added with the new standard. So we'll have faster speeds available and the 6 gigahertz band, which allows for less congestion and generally faster connections overall. That's the same as what happened with the 5 gigahertz band we had introduced years ago. So we expect that. Now, the big news is two different things. The first thing is the display. You can see here at the top, the display is a little bit different on the top. Now, of course, we're not seeing a notch here, and it's expected that the notch is going to shrink horizontally. So based on some leaks, as you can see here, it looks like the notch is going to get horizontally shrunk. And they've also moved where the camera module is. So it looks like the speaker will move to the top, the camera will be there, and you can't see the notch size, but we expect it to be shrunk horizontally. This is great news for a lot of people, as I know it bothers quite a few people. It's never really bothered me, and it's easy to differentiate between an iPhone and something else at this point, but it's never been a problem for me. But I know a lot of people really don't like the notch, so to see it get a little bit smaller seems to be better. Again, the camera isn't said to improve much in the front, but the speaker will move as well. So we expect that. Also, we expect this to be a 120 hertz display with ProMotion on the Pro models. So if you've never seen that, it's on the iPad Pro. It's just super smooth when scrolling. So it's hard to convey in a video or hard to see. You have to see it in person, but as you scroll, maybe you're scrolling through your app library, it's just incredibly smooth. And it can ramp up that speed up to 120 hertz and then back down. Now, with that technology, by being able to ramp it down to 1 hertz like you can with the Apple Watch, you can have an always-on display that uses very little power. And that's what's expected for the iPhone 13. You'll see my Apple Watch has sort of gone into a sleep where it's not being moved. And if you pick up your wrist, it comes back to life and speeds up the actual hertz refresh rate. That's expected on at least the Pro displays on the iPhone, which would give us an always-on display. So the always-on display would use very little power and maybe give us information like we have on Android. So you can see this is an always-on display on a Pixel 5, and it just keeps it always on. Turn that off, but you'll see with the always-on display, it just gives the weather information and the clock. So it'd be great to have that on an iPhone as well, with their style overall represented. Now, another area we expect to see changed is the camera. Every year, Apple improves the camera. Now, this is one area where they don't represent it as well as the rest of the device overall. And while we'll probably get a diagonal layout like we have here, you can expect the lenses to look a little bit different, similar to what we have on the iPhone 12 Pro and those models, models where the lens will look different, but this gives us an idea of the overall camera bump. It's said to be less protruding out of the back, so it won't be as thick overall, but it will be a larger camera bump so that you can fit in different sensors. And we're also said to get sensor shift stabilization across the iPhone 13 lineup this time. And what that means is instead of having the lens on a float, which makes the overall sensor or camera module larger, you instead have the sensor itself on a float that's magnetically floated so that it can help stabilize the image. We already have that in the 12 Pro Max, and it's said to trickle down to the other models of the iPhone 13. That would be great as it has improved stabilization, and it also should have improved sensors from the 12 Pro Max. However, the sensors are not said to change too dramatically. Now, with the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, it's said that the camera bump will get much larger. So it won't be as thick, but it's said to be much larger overall to accommodate for all of the sensor shift stabilization and improved lenses, as well as an improved ultra-wide camera. The ultra-wide is said to be getting the largest improvement with significant changes, maybe upgraded lenses and better autofocus or autofocus in general. Also, it's said that we could have portrait video. We already have a portrait video mode in iOS 15 with FaceTime, so it makes sense that they could do that for video on the next iPhones as well, using the processor to sort of push that along. So all of those should be coming along with an astrophotography focus, according to Max Weinbeck. So he's saying there should be astrophotography in the next iPhones where it'll improve night mode even further. So it's pretty good now. It could get a huge bump with iPhone 13, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, internally, we're expecting to get an A15 CPU. Every year, they update it by one number, so that makes a lot of sense. Across the lineup, we should see A15 with maybe even more RAM. It depends on whether or not the iPhone needs it. The iPhone is very efficient with the RAM, so it makes sense that we may not need it. But if we do see some, expect it maybe 2 more gigabytes or so, where we could bump up to maybe 8 gigabytes on the largest models, where we have 6 now. So maybe we'll see that. Now, one thing that's a little bit of a downside to me is that we're going to retain Lightning. We're not switching to USB-C yet, so we'll still have a Lightning port to charge. Maybe in the future we'll have a portless iPhone, but it's expected to have a Lightning port this time around. And so you'll be able to plug it in and charge your phone via Lightning, just like you always could. But we'll also have faster charging capability, according to many of the most recent rumors and leaks, meaning that we can charge up to 25 watts. Apple recently released a new charging adapter up to 30 watts, so maybe it could go even faster, but we'll have that as well as MagSafe, of course. Now, again, this year, many are expecting reverse wireless charging. We've seen this enabled a little bit with the new iPhone MagSafe battery pack, where you can plug into the iPhone and reverse charge the battery pack through the iPhone. The speeds are not great, but you can do it, but it's better to charge through the pack. So maybe we'll see this, maybe we won't, but it would be great to be able to charge your AirPods through your iPhone, and maybe they'll finally enable that this year. We've heard this for a couple years, but we would love to see it just be enabled at this point. It looks like the technology's there in the current iPhones, so we just have to wait for them to do it with the iPhone 13, hopefully. Now, also one thing that's very significant is battery life. It looks like not only will the A15 CPU be more efficient like it is every year, but it may have better battery life due to the overall thickness of the device. It looks like, based on these prototypes or these models, that it could be slightly thicker on some models. So the overall thickness is maybe a millimeter or half a millimeter thicker, but that size will give more room for a larger extended battery. So hopefully we see even better battery life. We've had great battery life now. It would be great to get maybe 14 hours of screen on time, and we'll have to wait and see, of course, but hopefully we see that. Now, as far as the color availability, expect very similar colors. Now, the one thing is some people are saying there will be blue, others are saying it will be orange or maybe a darker purple color for the Pro model. We've had green, we've had Pacific blue, and maybe we'll have a purple this time or an orange, but we'll have to wait and see. There hasn't been any significant leaks showing the actual color that proves that that's what they're going to do. It could be the exact same where we have gold, silver, space gray, or a graphite and Pacific blue, but they tend to change the one color on the Pro models every year, so we could see that. Also, with the regular models, we'll have to see if they keep more pastel colors or change it up to something different. But we'll know within about a month and a half or so. Now, one thing we could see that we don't know 100% is many have been saying we want Touch ID. Some have said we'll see it this year. Others have said we won't see it this year. I would welcome it. It makes things much easier sometimes if you're wearing a mask, or maybe you just want to use that as it's faster sometimes for many people. I know quite a few people that prefer Touch ID over Face ID, and whether or not they could integrate it into the power button like they do on the iPad Air, or it's just integrated to the screen. Either way, I would love to see that. So hopefully they add something like that this year, but that probably will be a couple years away, it looks like. Hopefully it will be this year. And so that's everything we expect with the iPhone 13, 13 mini, 13 Pro, and 13 Pro Max. I can't wait to see what they have. Hopefully there's some surprises as well, but again, many of these leaks have already come out and they tend to be pretty accurate year over year. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below, and what colors do you think Apple will release for the next iPhone? What do you think they'll be? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.